We're back on Radio Row. Ian Nicholas with Andrew Selover and a Syracuse alum doing a lot with ESPN and the Boston Celtics, Drew Carter. Drew, we just missed you here in New Orleans.
Yeah, good morning, fellas. We were just down there to play the Pelicans. Celtics got last second win. Jason Tatum, Mr. Clutch, hit a fadeaway jumper. So we won that game and then celebrated accordingly. It's New Orleans, baby. To be honest with you, I'm a little disappointed. I asked you how your first night in New Orleans was, and you guys said, "Oh, it was a long night. Didn't get a lot of sleep." I'm like, "All right, here we go. The boys, they're off to a good start." And turns out you were working the whole time. So you have plenty of time to enjoy New Orleans.
Drew, I've got to ask, do you have your NBA championship ring yet? Has it come in?
I do have that. Yeah, I got it pretty early this season. I can't believe I got one. I must have been last on the list. I must have been the last guy, or like in the bottom five. So I last year I did the road games for the Celtics. The Our longtime announcer and a legend of the game, Mike Gorman. It was his 43rd year as the voice of the Celtics, and so he'd called the home games for his last season. I did the road games. That was kind of the way we transitioned. So I was not sure if I would get a ring. Obviously, I didn't do anything to help the team win, but I was only there half the time. But I did travel with the team and got to know the guys pretty well. So thankfully, I got one, and it's pretty sweet. But it's more of a like a party like trick than anything because I'm not going to wear it on a daily basis. But if I'm going somewhere where I know there are a lot of Celtics fans, and I'll probably pull it out.
What was your biggest takeaway with your one season working with Mike?
Well, it was good because you guys know this at Syracuse. A lot of the time, it can be a bit of a bubble. You're around the same people every day, and you're getting advice from a lot of the same alumni or people you admire in the industry. And it can feel kind of homogenous, not to sound like a dork, but it can feel a little homogenous. Like a lot of the people can leave there and sound similar to each other. And then the more time you spend in the real world, the more you sort of develop your own voice. Uh, Mike is Mike just did it his own way, like the guy, no one told him how to broadcast a game. He was a pilot in the Navy, and then he got his start in the broadcasting world by basically like lying to somebody to get into a radio station and getting some experience. And then next thing you knew, he was doing local news in Providence. And then after that, he met Tommy Heinsohn and became the voice of the Celtics, and they did that together forever. So we talked a lot about like how to call a game, how he learned how to do it, how I learned how to do it. And I just learned a lot from him about being myself and letting the game breathe. And I think the most important thing I learned from Mike is you got to be the same person off the air as you are on the air. And Mike, what was cool about like watching him operate was walking around with him, before or after a game, or if we were out to lunch or something. He was the same dude you saw on TV, and he would always stop and talk to fans and take pictures. And he was incredibly gracious, and that was cool to see for a guy who's been doing it for 40 plus years and was like the voice of the childhood of a lot of Celtics fans. I learned a lot from that.
You talked about Mike and his partner for a long time. You've gotten to work with Scal here with the Celtics. Can you talk about how your chemistry with Scal is built on air?
Yeah, Scal and I have a good time, man. We just got tacos in Cleveland last night with our director Jim Edmonds, who's an absolute legend as well. Scal and I met like 5 minutes before we auditioned together. So yeah, I was pretty nervous because I mean, I'm an NBA nerd. I'm a white kid who lacked athleticism and thought like I could be the next Brian Scalabrine. By the way, Scal's pretty athletic. You don't understand that when you're a child and you're like Scal versus LeBron. Like, how is Scal in the NBA? But then you start to talk to him and hang out with him and understand how a guy makes it to the league. I think one reason why is he thinks the game on a very deep level. I think he understands basketball, you know, more than even the average NBA player because of some of his limitations. He had to do that and had to work super hard to make it. And he's in the league for a decade. And honestly, I think he's a tremendous announcer. And like I think he's a bit of a basketball savant, and I learned a ton from him. He's hilarious. He's fun to work with. But we met 5 minutes before our audition, and thankfully Uh, my boy Noah Eagle, who was my roommate in college and also Syracuse class of 2019, he had done some stuff with Scal already because Noah was working with the Clippers, so he was sort of in the NBA. And I mean, Noah was in the NBA since he was born because of Ian working with the Nets, but Noah like did some serious XM stuff with Scal. And so I knew that. And I told him that. He's like, "Oh, you know Noah?" And like we sort of connected on that. And then went in there and the audition just could not have gone any better. And I actually think he was a big reason why I got the job because we had a great time together. And I think we could both tell that if we got to spend, the whole season together, we would have a blast. So I love it. I mean, that guy, like I spend as much time with him probably as his wife does. So that's fun. And then his son owes me $100. His son is 11 years old. He owes me $100 because he loves Steph Curry, roots for the Warriors, even against the Celtics, which riddle me that. I mean, his dad works for the team. He roots for the Warriors. He wanted to bet me because the Celtics just played the Warriors like a couple weeks ago. And I was like, all right, bro, $100. He's like, you got it. And the Celtics won by 40. So as soon as the final buzzer sounded, I DM'd him on Instagram, which he uses on his mom's phone, by the way. I DM'd him on Instagram, my Venmo. Still haven't heard back. So Ryder Scalabrine, if you're listening, you owe me, bro.
I think once it comes to high school, once he gets there, you got to come really collecting at that point. Once he gets his own
Yeah,
IGMs,
With interest.
exactly. He is accruing a lot of interest right now. People don't forget.
so you just brought up Noah, and you two, since graduating from Syracuse and getting to the network level, have both kind of pioneered these alternative broadcasts for younger generation, animated. I don't even know how the behind the scenes stuff works, but you know, when you guys have gone into that process, what's your mentality like compared to calling a regular game? And how has it been your college roommate? You guys can kind of bounce ideas off each other in terms of pulling off style of broadcasting that doesn't really have any rule book for how to do it.
Pioneered. Great verb from you. Great verb, yeah.
Thanks.
Um, yeah, so that was like that's been one of the most rewarding things we've done at ESPN since I've been there. So, for those who don't know, we've called some hockey, football, and basketball games that are entirely animated. So it's happening live. All the players are cartoons. They're put into this universe. Could be Toy Story, could be The Simpsons, could be Big City Greens, which is a Disney Channel show. We did one on Main Street USA, which is in Disney World. So like Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck was in the game. Donald Duck was cooking the Spurs. He went in there for Mikal Bridges. He replaced him, and he played very well. The the first time I did that was a hockey game in the universe of Big City Greens. And to be honest with you guys, I think what Noah and Nickelodeon did played a role in us even trying it because and I don't know this. I'm not like it's way above my pay grade the decisions to try a broadcast like that. I was just asked, "Hey, do you want to call it?" But I think the way it started is someone at Disney or someone at ESPN said Nickelodeon is calling football games like we're Disney. We have ESPN, we have the most IP. We should be doing that. What are we doing, guys? So then we did it for an NHL game with this cartoon Big City Greens, which is an awesome show. Like I actually enjoy it, even though I'm the only, adult male who's watched every episode of that show and doesn't have kids, which probably means I'm on some watch list somewhere. But I have watched it and enjoyed it. And we got to meet the creators of the show. We flew out to LA and I did a sit down interview with them. They came on the show live in character. Like it was really amazing. And that kind of launched this whole separate wing of ESPN live broadcast, which is animated. So we did a Toy Story football game, which was amazing. We did a Simpsons football game this year, which was honestly even better because the execution was higher level. We had the actual voice actors join us. So like I was interviewing Homer Simpson. Never thought I'd be doing that. But the prep for it is pretty intensive because you have to prep it like a normal game. And as you guys know, prepping a football game is a lot of time. There's a lot of people out there. But you also have to prep the show. So I had never watched The Simpsons once until I got that assignment. So I had like 3 months to watch 700 episodes of television. I didn't get through the entire catalog, but I watched the football episodes and the best of episodes and from the heyday from the 90s. And I called the game with Mina Kimes, who's a legit massive Simpsons fan. And she was amazing. And that Dan Orlovsky, who likes Simpsons as well. And we got through it and it went really well. And the response to those has been really neat because, in what we do, guys, it's sometimes difficult to see an impact from your job. If you're looking at like a doctor or a teacher or a lawyer, or even my sister who's worked for nonprofits for her entire career, you're like, man, they're making a real impact directly on people. And sometimes it's hard for us to see that. Like we go to an arena and we talk about sports and then we leave. It's like, am I really helping anybody? With those, I feel like we are because we reach out to a younger audience, and if we can if we can convince somebody to become a sports fan because they first saw it when they were watching their favorite movie or show, then that's a win.
Is there a future plan going for that? Do you have anything you can tell us about where you might expect, even if it's not in the plans already, where you think that all of this will go down the road, maybe in 5 years?
It's a good question. I don't know. I mean, part of me feels like everything is on the table for how sports are presented right now. Like maybe we do one of those a week. Maybe we do like a full season. I don't know because I think there's big change coming in sports broadcasting with just people's viewing habits and streaming habits. So maybe they become more common. But one thing that someone at ESPN told me is it's such a big undertaking to put one of those games on. It doesn't make sense to just do it once. So like if we have the technology, we might as well use it. So hopefully we keep doing it. And if we do another Big City Greens NHL game, that would be our third. And it would be fun to like reconnect with the creators of the show. So hopefully there's another one of those coming soon.
Well, I'm sure all of his skills required to uh, do the play-by-play for a massive undertaking like that was certainly honed at an institution like Citrus TV. And of course, WAER and Z89. Anyways, where I'm getting with this is, back in the good old year of 2019, you were in our shoes and you were in Atlanta, the land of Andrew Selover, at the Super Bowl. So I know it's a crazy week as we're a part of it right now, and it's already been crazy. But as you look back at that week in time, what was your biggest takeaway there?
Man, that was a fun week, dude. That was a fun week. It started as a pipe dream. My buddy Jonah Carp, who is a year younger than me at Syracuse, said, "Why don't we do this?" He had some people from Long Island who I think were at Fordham or somewhere else, another college, maybe St. Joe's or St. John's. He was like, "If they're doing it, we should do it." Kind of like ESPN said with the animated broadcast. If they're doing it, we should do it. So he approached Dennis Denninger, and long story short, we made it happen, and I was lucky enough to like tag along. Biggest takeaway, man, I don't know. I would say my biggest takeaway is that this industry is both small and huge at the same time. It's like sometimes you'll hear people talk about their hometown and be like, "Well, it's big enough you can do whatever you want, but it has a small town feel." I sort of felt the same way about the sports media industry after leaving the Super Bowl. You get there, and if you're on Radio Row, it's super intimidating because like you're the tiniest fish in a massive pond. You're the college kids in a suit or a polo, and you're looking around. It's like there's Pat McAfee's enormous setup, and there's the guy with the local show from Atlanta who's got a massive following, and there's Mike Florio, and the list goes on and on. And that's not even to talk about the actual celebrities who come to Radio Row. So you look around at that, it's like, man, I'm the man at Syracuse, and nobody gives a shit about me here. Sorry if I'm not allowed to swear on this. You can bleep it out. You guys are smart.
We got good
Um,
answers.
yeah, I'd be like, man, I feel like I run it at Cuse, like I'm, sports director or whatever, and I have the best slot on Citrus, and like this is going to be great. And then you quickly get knocked down a few pegs when you're there. So that it was good perspective. That's the big part of the industry. But the small part is you meet people there who either you've gotten to know through getting a critique from them, or you have a mutual friend in the industry, or you meet someone for the first time and you stay close with them. Like there's still people I've met at Radio Row for the first time in 2019 who I am in contact with. Like doing NBA games, I saw Kevin Harlan, a couple weeks ago when we were in LA. And Kevin Harlan's the man. First time I met him was when I was sitting across from him at Radio Row doing an interview. And I was like, holy smokes, this guy actually sounds the same as he does on TV in real life. How is that possible? And he does. And then Scott Hanson, who I watch every Sunday on Red Zone. He's a Syracuse guy. He was the long snapper on our football team. People forget that. He was sitting across from me at Radio Row as well. And I remember thinking, this is the most intense individual I have ever met. He's staring through my soul right now. No wonder he can do 7 hours of no longer commercial free football.
Oh,
So anyway, there are people you meet and you will like never forget those experiences. So soak it in because like going to the Super Bowl as a student is outrageous. That's just one of many reasons why Syracuse is the best.
That is Scott Hansen, WAER's first ever football sideline reporter right there, Drew. So
Yeah.
not just
Scott Hansen, baby.
not just
Cuse
to watch on
legend.
a
He doesn't he need Scott Hansen needs to put on for Syracuse more. He talks about Michigan too much.
Do you have a prediction for this year's Super Bowl as the Chiefs and the Eagles rematch?
Chiefs. Boring. I hate it. I hate this Super Bowl. I actually would rather watch a replay of the boring ass Super Bowl we covered in 2019 when the Patriots beat the Rams 13-3, and it was incredibly boring. Anything is better than this. I hate both of these teams so much. I can't stand the Chiefs. I'm ready for new blood. Luckily for them though, because I know they really care who I'm rooting for. I can't stand the Eagles even more. So I'd rather see the history than let Philly fans experience joy. So give me the Chiefs.
did you grow up a Vikings fan being from Minnesota?
Big Vikings fan, yep, which leads to a lot of heartbreak. This year was brutal. I mean, our quarterback was going to get paid. He was either going to get franchise tagged or get a huge contract and be our starter for the foreseeable future. And in 2 weeks, 2 weeks, he probably lost $100 million or more. So that's a lesson, kids.
Well, that was going to be my next question was what do you think they're going to do with the quarterback spot? But I guess you kind of answered it there.
I don't know, man. I still would be down for Darnold. I guess I'm just not reactionary enough because I'm like, this guy was so good for us all season. Are we really just gonna like say sayonara? But that's probably what's gonna happen because he did collapse in the biggest possible moment. And everybody likes JJ. JJ McCarthy is hot. Like, who doesn't want JJ McCarthy? So maybe it'll be him. Whatever.
What's the outlook on the Celtics season here, Drew? Do you expect back-to-back championships in Boston?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Andrew, because it was very refreshing to join a team and immediately win a championship. After my entire childhood, every team I rooted for was basically a joke. The Vikings are usually good. The Twins are usually good as well. The Timberwolves are one of the worst run franchises in the NBA until the last couple of years. The Lynx did win 4 championships when I was growing up, so they were a dynasty. I was following the WNBA before it was cool. But yes, it is nice to be with the Celtics, a winning franchise and the best team in the league still. I mean, even though we're not in first in the East right now, we're actually playing Cleveland tonight. But I do expect a repeat championship. When this team turns it on, it's a beautifully constructed roster. It's like the group you guys sent to New Orleans. It just the pieces fit. There's a lot of talent. It just makes sense. So I think we'll win it again. I hope so.
I think my last question has to be, your guy on the Celtics, Peyton Pritchard.
Hmm.
Did the witching hour have any influence on the Pritching hour? Where did it come to you? What's the deal there?
Well, absolutely. I mean, the witching hour was the influence for the Pritching hour. And I think, that's a term that Big Cat from Barstool claims he made up before Scott Hansen and then Scott Hansen stole it. Obviously, the witching hour, is something that goes back to like Salem in the early 1600s. But yes, that was the inspiration for Pritching hour. And then preseason P was inspired by playoff P and podcast P. Real NBA heads know about Paul George giving himself the nickname playoff P. But when I came up with those two things in the preseason, my first year with the Celtics, my buddy texted me and he said, you have to say, Pritch better have my money. And I was like, there's no way I can get away with that. But then Pritchard is having this breakout season this year, and we start showing all these signs that say, Pritch, please. I'm like, if we're showing those, I'm saying it. So I told Scal, and he was like, "That's gonna be amazing. Like, what's the next line of the Rihanna song?" I was like, "It's pay me what you owe me." So we waited for the perfect moment. Big time shot, playing the Cavs, gave them their first loss of the season. Pritchard hits this huge three, and I drop the line. Scal nails it. We go to break. Worked out perfectly. So Peyton Pritchard has given me some of my favorite moments as an announcer.
I saw you tell that story a little bit on your big IG Live debut
Uh-huh.
the other day. Uh, I also heard you drop the word wicked. Uh,
Mhm.
can we talk about when that was added to the vocabulary of Drew Carter?
I wonder why you asked that.
Well, we do have a Bostonian on this trip that loves to drop the word wicked as well.
Nice. Who is it?
Ailey Weiss.
Tell Ailey I
A
say
YD Red Sox, not a Chatham A or a
I
Orleans,
know.
sadly.
Tell Ailey I say hi. Thanks Stella for me. I'll text her. But
Yep, of
enjoy it
course.
down there, guys.
Awesome.
All
Thanks,
right.
Drew.
Talk to you soon.